Hi, guys. Well, that was such an extraordinary session that maybe, just maybe, we're not done yet. What do you think? What do you think? Not done yet. Do you think it's a good idea to invite Kris back and just get him on to talk a little bit more? Now, I want some thumbs up here, guys. Come on now, guys. Jump back on and let me know what's going on here. Jump back on and let me see. If you would like Kris to come back on for a few more minutes to sing a couple more songs, then yes, let's get going. Let's get going on this here. And I'm just going to pop the music back on. And let's see if we can get some of you guys here talking. Yeah, see there, you come back on. Where if you'd like Kris to come back on, do a little chat here, just give us some thumbs up, just let us know some comments here. Look at you all piling back in. Kris, come back, Kris, come back.
Stop.
Stop now. Okay, a little bit of music just to keep you going. Okay, so you're probably completely confused now, thinking, what is going on? This show's not being an hour. Well, so we had such a blast doing this that Kris said, I want to talk a lot more about what's going on, what about this energy we're going through, do a few more songs and have a bit more chit chat, do some more live readings with you guys. And yes, if any of you would like some readings here, just drop the information through. It'd be great to see you. And but in the meantime, Kris here. So we were talking about this energy, this particular phase of time we were going through, and how this is affecting us at the moment. And just a tad, she says, just a tad. She's probably running off to you know where. Yes, to get a coffee. Get a coffee. Why not? Another glass of wine. Anyway, which we're talking about this energy, this change that's coming through our lives at the moment. And I love the participation of everybody there, the way they were talking. How do you? What else would you like to bring into this? Bring into this situation that you feel is relevant at the moment, that's helping people to go through this. That would help people rather to go through this particular time and change.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, Phil and I were talking just after the break in the green room.
Yeah.
We were back in the
Yeah,
green
where
room
we
chatting away.
chill out with the chill out with the stars. Yeah.
But because it is such a monumental time, since it is such a powerful shift, we decided, and it seemed like people were really resonating with it. We thought to keep the conversation going. And one of the things that I had thought about earlier today, in fact, that I thought I'd throw out there, and if we had the time to today, was the cyclical nature of society and civilization.
Okay.
And I'll throw this out there as a resource for anybody that wants to go look into it. There was a book that was based off of a body of research at Harvard University. I think it was Harvard or Yale. I don't know. They're both mad at me right now um, for bringing up their names. But it was called The Fourth Turning.
Okay.
And these guys, it was Neil Howe and something Strauss. Last names were Howe and Strauss. And these guys were professors, I want to say it was at Harvard. And they were doing research on generational endowments. What did previous generations leave the next generation? And the more that they dug into it, they started realizing that there were these cyclical patterns. And then the more that they started studying these cyclical patterns, they started realizing that there was this sort of 80-year cycle that would go on. And each 80 years was kind of broken down into four generational phases of 20 years, which were kind of like seasons of a year: spring, summer, fall, and winter.
Okay.
And so here in America, and I know this, they've mapped the same thing for Europe. China mapped 3,000 years worth of their history based off of this cycle. And also they found that Romans did the same thing. They would map their cycles on it, and they called them saculi. They were these 80-year cycles. And so in the United States, you have this kind of heartbeat of, Revolutionary War, 80 years later, Civil War, 80 years later, World War II. And you start seeing how this starts going more global,
Yes. Now that's
and then
yeah. Sorry. Carry on. Carry on.
and And then here we are in that very changeable time that we would see. And what they described was it's always precipitated by one type of event. So in the United States in World War II, we had the stock market crash of 29. That precipitated the 20-year, what they called the crisis period. They had names for each of these 4 generational 20-year cycles. That was the crisis period. And now we were kind of thrown headlong into the crisis period of our time, and at least for here in the United States, and on 9/11. That's when you had the Patriot Act. That's when you had, you're either for us or you're against us. You had this kind of divide started to throw. Now we're in that late stage, maximum crisis period where you had the World War II break out. Yeah. And what you're seeing happen right now is, see, a lot of people have been throwing around the term World War III for, past like 8 to 10 years or whatever. And I guess sort of like well, for lack of a better word, the mistake is to assume that the last crisis period is going to look, or this crisis period is going to look like the last crisis period. But right now we're in this huge shakeup time. And so a lot of us have to kind of take a back seat. It's a hard thing to do, but in our own personal lives, it's not like we have this, it is and it isn't. Right, you're going to hear me dealing with where I am and things. So don't take what I'm saying. It's merely my opinion. Don't take what I'm saying and apply it to your own life. I'm just trying to give context to the times that we're in, the change that we're in. Is that we're in the midst of a huge global shakeup that's a societal cycle, and we are now at that maximum crisis period. And there are a lot of people out there that are documenting what we're experiencing right now as 4th generation warfare. Warfare now is more informational than it is anything else. Yeah. And we are being insulted. We're being assaulted with what we would call like a 4th generational warfare informational campaign. It's not like people flying over and dropping bombs. I mean, if you want to look at old school World War II, World War III already happened over in the Middle East in the past 20 years. That's been going on.
I definitely believe you're right. This is interesting because in astrology, this focuses very much on Uranus. Uranus, when you talk about revolution, you talk about power, change, wars, things like this. Often Uranus tends to be involved in this somewhere. And Uranus is in Taurus at the moment, and Taurus rules land. One thing it does here, rules lands. As much as your own land, it also rules countries. And it's interesting that we're seeing the struggles. Like, for instance, we go to India, we go to China, and the way they've been trying to open up borders over to India, and India getting a bit upset, and China getting a bit upset, and those energies there. So I think that's always a strong thing there, and I think that's a big energy that comes up with this. Now, also here you've got the stuff going on in Hong Kong at the moment with the rules coming in. That's very much about Saturn Aquarius. Saturn's going back into Capricorn, so it's going to reorder structure, it's going to reorder rules. Then it's going to turn around and go forwards again. It's going to go back into Aquarius. Aquarius wants to liberate freedom, and wants to pioneer change. Uranus here, which is up there in Taurus, is looking at land, territory, things like this here. We're going to be seeing a lot of changes, things like this. People wanting to exploit more land, exploit more change, exploit more these energies. Now, Uranus takes 84 years to go around the zodiac, and they're talking about the 80-year cycle. This is very much true. You go back, we're in 2020 now. We've just come to, all right, it's not spot on, but we come to the end of the First World War. You go on another 20 odd years and you're talking about the outbreak of the Second World War and what change is going on at that particular time. I think this energy we go through, especially through Taurus, about land, about security, how we want security, and you're saying about information, is protecting us from information like that, which can completely change this. Okay, right. Yeah, somebody having problems with their sound. Do apologise. Hope you, Bessie, you're going to get all right there. And Honey Monster, you're back. Good evening. Brilliant chat. Good. Clairvoyance is brilliant chat. And I think it's very much about these cycles that go through there. And One thing that Uranus teaches us to do is always think out beyond the normal realms of thinking. When you talk about pioneers, we talk about people explorers, and we talk about going beyond galaxies and going beyond thinking. It's very much a Uranus and Aquarian thing, but it's also, it's the same. Uranus is not in a sign of Aquarius at the moment. It's up there in Taurus. But we're going to look at land and territories and things like this, and how this could change, or what impact. We talk about war and things like this. Okay, possibly, but it will be over land. Over land, it'll be something to do with land, and what we call security, threats to our security, social security. But and it's interesting what you say about World War Three. But yeah, World War Three has been going on for donkeys. It doesn't mean to say here we're all at war. We all are. Right. We all, in some respect, because we're at war with the virus. We're at war with loads of different things. There's countries who are still battling away at things here. So people around the world are battling over land, and countries wanting to take back territories and things like this. So it's yes, that's what it is. Yeah, Paul, that's right. Just a random pop up and chat. So that's exactly what it is. We decided to come back on. And because it's such a enjoyable part of the show, we want to have a little chat with you all, and just for you to join in. We may get a chance to do some other readings, and at least if we get a chance to do your reading, we definitely will. And possible, I like to follow and shared for Ya'o. Ya'o, I love that. Ya'o. That must mean you're American. That must mean you're from America somewhere when you say Ya'o.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. Ya'o.
He said, what's it? He said the hat. He's like, the hat, it's very yeehaw.
That is very yeehaw. That is very yeehaw. No hat over here. Just a little cafe out the back there. Cafe Clairvoyance. Anyway, so yes, this is very much an interesting conversation I think we're having. Guys, if you want to join in the debate, by all means do. What you think about these present times we're going through. Yes, Salim Ardell agreed with World War III. Yes, we've been in this for a long time. It's not necessarily what we think it is, just as Chris was saying, about dropping bombs on different countries. It's information, it's technology. I mean, this is interesting because the politicians, or people blaming the politicians, especially in the UK, saying, you shrunk the armed forces down to nothing. Nothing. Well, the only thing is if war comes to war, it won't be based on soldiers. It won't be based on Southern terms. It'd be more to do with how you control power through electricity, how you control computers, how you control things like that. You only have to drop email everywhere and everyone will be in a panic. You only have to drop radio masts and that's it. You might as well give up and say, okay, we give in, can't communicate, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. No doubt. And the really positive aspect of this too, and the reason why I wanted to kind of bring that subject up and this whole cyclical thing is because it's not like a linear path descent into, this is just going to keep going this way. There is a moment where things hit like the thermostat on society hits the low point, and then all the thermostat kicks back on, and then we go the other direction. And what I've seen in my lifetime is, at least in my generation, was looked at as the ones that were unraveling the moral fabric. We're just going to keep blah, 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 and then big jowls going,
Yeah, they are like that, the politicians. They've all got jaws, the cheeks that
wobble. But what happens is, I look at the kids nowadays, like when I was in college, we didn't look at politics. We could care less about current affairs, anything like that. But look at the kids now; they're really entrenched in it. And regardless of what they might be buying into it, I do believe, and this is kind of like part of the shift that we just went through and sort of like the past, over the eclipse cycle, is that everybody, generally speaking, everybody at their heart has good intentions. Yeah, they might be running with different information, but everybody's got good intentions. And what you see though is you see this return back to values, and so we do rebound. There is going to be, after the winter, there is a spring, and through this time, like winter is the time where you plan the next year. Like, what's the next phase of my life going to look like? And the springtime is when you start planting all your seeds and start building for that next phase. It's the darkest time of the year, and it can feel that way at times, even though we're in the height of summer right now. And I think you mentioned before, this could go on. We're looking at a 5-year
Yes.
Was it like 5 year
5 year
cycle?
cycle, 5 year cycle. It won't
Mm.
always be the same way it is at the present time, but I think it's interesting. We've got Venus up in Gemini, a very personal planet. We've got the moon's nodes coming to Gemini, and Gemini is very much about face, hands. What are we doing? We're wearing masks. What are we doing? We're covering our hands. We're doing all this stuff here. So interesting, in a very interesting way we're doing this here. Sally Bardell says, I'm hoping the young generations pull the world back together. Glad they're involved themselves now. I think they are. Yes, I believe a younger generation are doing something which brings this energy back into a different form. And it's interesting here as well when very much about the. I was actually talking to my mum and my dad and talking about what's going on at the moment. They say, well, they're locking down, they're doing their thing, but they cannot understand why the younger generation are just running out free, going, we don't care. Well, in Spain they do. It must admit, in Spain they're pretty good. I don't know how they do it in America. Do you find that younger people want to liberate themselves and just say, "I'm not going to go around and lock myself in my house all the time"? Are they wanting to keep free, or are they obeying the law and wanting to lock down and just wait for it to go?
Well, it's really interesting, and I'm glad you brought up the topic because I wanted to ask what's going on elsewhere in the world, because here in the United States we've had a major kind of pushback to open back up.
Yes.
And you've had this major opening, and things have gone back to normal. Now, I've been making trips down to Ocean City, Maryland, and what I'm finding is really interesting is the proximity to ocean and people kind of just living life and going back to the way things are normal.
Yes.
Well, what we would call normal. And so I kind of look at it as more like a geographical thing. Obviously in the United States, you have a lot of protests and things going on. One of the things that we're seeing over here, and this is the reason why I wanted to ask you guys what's going on over there, is that we have the news media is just sounding the alarm bells that we're having more spikes. At the same time, though, our authority, the CDC, Center of Disease, they have redefined counts. So what you have is if somebody comes in positive, they don't even have to be tested anymore to be positive. They just have to exhibit symptoms. And then on top of that, they throw in 15 probable cases into the count.
Okay.
So we're driving it up, and now what you're seeing is this reaction to that is where everything's starting to shut back down in the areas that things had opened up. So what's going on over there in Europe right now in terms of are things continuing to open, or are you guys
they're all
going back?
They're all continuing to open, but you've got one side of the equation where everything's beginning to open, and then you've got the other side here saying we're spiking. We're spiking again with Corona crisis.
You are having that.
Yes.
You are having that. Okay.
Spain is starting to lock towns back down again, cities, areas, and they're saying that a lot of scientists are saying it is all far too early. We should be doing this. Other people are saying here, but we've got to get the economy back up. And it's interesting. And I think some people have said, yes. Right. Yes. Sally Bartel says 2 cities in Spain have shut down. That's right. I think there's going to be more. Now, this is the interesting case here. They've got people on planes. They want to get people on planes and to fly them across to different places, and also shutting down beaches in the Costa del Sol. I didn't know that one. Wow, that's quite a big area. That's a very moneyed area, I would say. It's very popular for tourist destinations. Now, what's interesting about this is you've got all these holiday destinations coming back up. They're saying schools, you're shutting till September. Well, the only thing is, if you're going to shut schools, why shut schools if you're going to open everybody up to airports and holiday destinations where they're going to be in closer proximity than it would be in a school? So you're holding back the younger generation from learning, and yet you're letting everyone else out there to go and have a time of holidays, and you're going to be in closer proximity to everybody else, but they won't let the schools go back. And yet it's the younger generation here, which I believe, I may be completely wrong, who have got a stronger immune system than the oldies.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're actually holding back the people who could build up immunity and stop this again. So it's again. So yes, pubs closing again due to outbreaks in the UK. And say here, so yes, it's there. And I think, yeah, now this is interesting because when you look at this astrologically, this information is very, as soon as you watch the planets start to come into action, you know roughly what's going to start coming out in one way or form. Not exactly the headlines, although you can look for that in some respects, but you watched Jupiter and Pluto. Jupiter and Pluto. Pluto was brought up the virus, and Pluto is responsible for viruses. And Jupiter, what it does, it makes things bigger. So Jupiter has been retrograde now, and it's just come back over the top of Pluto. So these two here starting to react, and the energy here will start to react, so we start to get the spread again. The big thing is Jupiter will go back past Pluto, then it'll turn around, and then the pair of them start to go forwards. Jupiter is the faster moving planet, so it's going to go back over the top of Pluto. A lot of astrologers are thinking they're not looking forward to this. They're saying maybe we all get shut down again around the end of September, October, when these two come back into a powerful conjunction. You could say, oh, great, that's it. We're all going for doomsday, and it's all going, oh, brilliant, we're all going to get locked back down again. The thing here is that Jupiter and Pluto together have always been very, very powerful planets for people who come out and make success, create success. Now, in history, you go back in history, the times where the greatest times where millionaires arose from was from times like this. People of success came out of time of change like this. It's not just viruses. People come out, you put a recession in, great. People who are going to be successful will love a recession, because from a recession they'll create something that we all need, and it gets us out of a recession, or it creates something. But you also look at the internet, ruled by very much about Uranus. It's about electricity. Is in Taurus, very much of Taurus, and we have to think about change, the way we communicate and connect over land with each other. So it's everything now is going on everything's now going online. And actually, talk to the younger generation about this. I've been talking to quite a few of them. Oh yes, oh there's hope for us all. Yes, of course there is. Of course there is. Yes, it's not all gloom and doom. But some of that, you talk to some of them in the younger generation, they're actually thoroughly enjoying talking to people online. They prefer that more than actually meeting up with them.
Well, it's like we were talking about before in the last episode. The silver lining in all this was, me as a performer, I went and I played at the same places that I would play every week or every month. And when all of a sudden we couldn't do that, we started doing things like this. And then all of a sudden people are tuning in from all around the world, rather than the same crowd that lived in that little area would show up every time you'd come out and play. Now you have an expanded outreach.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a fantastic though, isn't it? Because what you've got to do is to adapt. It's change. It's changing energy to adapt. And unfortunately, yes, a lot of people unfortunately lost their jobs. A lot of businesses have just flopped. Things will go down, but they will come back up, but they come back up differently. And that's the Uranus change, that's the Pluto, that's the Jupiter change, but the effect of it can be absolutely, in the end, will be when we see the change and we see what it's going to do, we go, wow, this is amazing. What lives are changing into is amazing. It's just old values having to go, new ones come in.
The world keeps turning.
It does. Do you want to do a song? Do you fancy doing one?
Yeah, actually, on this one.
In fact, just before you do that here, I'm just going to come back here. I saw, I'll just check she's back on here. Alicia, if you're there, just let us know you're there, please. If you're there, just let us know you're there, and just because we'll do a reading for you. If not, well, let's come back on down to Toma. Toma, if you're still there, just let us know. Whoever wants to come back up there, we'll do a reading for, because you guys wrote in. So just let us know. We'll carry on talking for another 30 seconds or so, because these guys are going to pop up. And yes, okay. Betty says she's been more enlightened to her gifts. And I know, Betty, now you guys out there, I'll just say here, let's all send out hearts, big hearts here to Betty, because she's been there in hospital. And I know she wants to know when she's coming out. And I felt here, going towards the end of July, going to August, I think was the time you'll start to break free of this. So hopefully, good luck to you. Good luck to you, my dear. But yes, if you guys out there are listening, Toma and Alicia, if you're out there still, we'll do a little reading for you and we'll do a song. Yes, okay. So now times change like this, you can't get out there so much to do concerts. Do you find that more people listen to you online?
Those are the only people that listen to me ever. In fact, Phil, you're the only person that's ever had me on a show to listen to me at all.
Oh my goodness. Well, I tell you what, it's been absolutely fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Okay. Yeah, we do a little song, then I'll see if the other guys, one of the two guys there come back up and let's see what they can say. Okay. Far away, sir. Far away. What's this song called?
It's called Unify. It was actually, wow, it was written before this whole cycle started. But I've always kind of wanted to do a song like this, so
okay,
we'll see how it resonates with everybody.
Fantastic.
They got us focused on who's black or white. Whether you find yourself on the left or the right. Tactics that work best when they're kept out of sight, all meant to keep us in this fight. Politics of division keep us from seeing eye to eye. The game is over the day we bring the truth to the light. Come on, people, unify. Refuse to take these sides that they're using to drive a wedge between you and I. Let's unify, close this great divide. Yeah, we're sounding the battle cry, can you hear it? While they got us focused on the 1%, and that we're part of the 99 being put to the test. They're drawing lines between the sexes to keep us all guessing. Now we're all in the same mess. Politics of division keep us from seeing eye to eye. The game is over the day we bring the truth to the light. Come on, people, unify. Refuse to take these sides that they're using to drive a wedge between us. Let's unify, close this great divide. Yeah, we're sounding the battle cry, can you hear it? Yeah, we're sounding the battle cry, can you hear it? When we look into each other's eyes, what do we really see? Oh, we got to believe it's more than these lies in the seats. There's a love that lies between us. Come on, people, unify. Refuse to take these sides that they're using to drive a wedge between you and I. Let's unify, close this great divide. Yeah, we're sounding the battle cry, can you hear it? Yeah, we're sounding the battle cry, can you hear it?
Brilliant. Wow, 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 wow. Let's do a round of applause there, sir. That was absolutely magic. Absolutely magic. Thank you very, very much. Chris, I just want to say here, I think we've had an absolutely spectacular evening tonight. I think the discussion that we had with everything going on and the previous show before was just absolutely mind-blowing watching it all. And so thoroughly enjoyed this discussion. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And
Me too.
I think we're going to have to come back and do something again in the autumn. Do a phenomenal show for everybody. And yes, we get more applauses here. This is what Betty says. More applause. Is that happy, Betty? You want more? Do you want more? Have another one then. Hang on. There you go. Have another one. How's that? So, Kris, I think what we'll do has been absolutely fabulous having you on. And we're going to, I'd just like to say here, thank you so much. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, both you and Deb. I love what you guys do.
Thank you so much.
You're one of the few shows I tap into every week, and oftentimes I can't catch it, especially when it's the early morning show. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning for me, but I always jump on and make sure I catch up on it later in the day. So
yes,
thank you.
Well, thank you very much indeed. We thoroughly enjoyed it, and we'll catch up with you very soon. And send our love to everyone over there, and to everyone that we know. And I wish you the very, very best. And yes, once again, big heart and a burger. Heart and a burger. I'm going for a burger. Buddy, you take care. Have a lovely, lovely evening.
Thank you. You too. Thanks, everybody.